Today, I want to talk about some aspects of Grammarly that you might not know about. Some things going on with Grammarly that you might not be fully familiar with. Now, to begin with, I want to make sure that everyone understands that I love Grammarly. I've used it many times in the past. I've written several different books, and a lot of times I've gone and I've uploaded parts of chapters to check certain grammar aspects and the flow, the spelling, the putting words together. So I've used Grammarly a lot in the past as a tool. But one of the big things now is that Grammarly is very, very different than the tool that you and I might know if we haven't used it in a while. So I actually haven't used Grammarly in a few months, about 6 months or so. So in that time, it's changed quite a bit. There are lots of new tools or features, let's say, to Grammarly. This is important because I've been to many different conferences. I've worked directly with many different universities and many different faculty. And the way that we think about Grammarly isn't quite right, right? Many people refer to Grammarly in a certain way, thinking that it's different than AI. But I'm here to tell you and to show you that when you say Grammarly, you might as well be saying generative AI because it's virtually the exact same thing now. And this comes from several different meetings that I've had where I've asked instructors about their use of AI or how they allow their students to use AI. And I've had many instructors say, well, no, I don't let them use AI for my classroom or for my assignments, but I tell them that it's okay to use Grammarly. Now, remember that saying, because I've heard that many different times at conferences, at presentations, at consultations. I don't let them use AI, but I tell them that it's okay to use Grammarly. I tell them that it's okay to use Grammarly. If you tell a student right now that it's okay that they use Grammarly, guess what? You're telling them that they can use AI as much as they want because AI is fully embedded, fully a major part of Grammarly now. So I'm going to go through step by step and show you what I mean with that. So I'm going in and I'm logging into Grammarly and I'm presented with this. So this was probably very familiar with everybody as far as the screen. This hasn't really changed for the longest time. You can go in and start typing. You could go in and put in whatever you've already written, let's say in Microsoft Word. You can copy and paste it and bring it in here. But what's different now is this feature right here, in that you can click Generative AI. It's a button right there. I want to highlight this part right now is that this is the free version of Grammarly, the free version, not the premium version. You don't have to pay anything for this. So if your students don't have the access to the premium version, I'm only going to be showing you the completely free version because I want you to know that this is what Grammarly is now in its basic form. Students, all students have access to this right now. So I go in here and I click the generative AI button. And from that, I get this nice little pop-up. It says, how do you want to get started? And then you can type in exactly what you want. So now it's up to the student to decide how they want to use this system. Now, they could use it in many different ways. Oh, help me come up with some ideas. I want to brainstorm topic for my assignment. They could also do this directly. I could type in something like, write an 800-word essay on democracy in the country of Armenia, use at least 2 in-text citations in APA format, and add a reference list. I could be that direct as far as saying, hey, just do this assignment for me, right? Because I'm asking it right here to just write it out for me. Now remember, the instructor said that it's okay to use Grammarly. So if you said it's okay to use Grammarly and not put any additional caveats to that, right? Then I'm going to assume that I can do whatever I want to as long as it's within Grammarly. But of course, this is tied in with generative AI because there's a full button right there. So now I could go in and I could say, hey, do this assignment for me. Here's the text prompt that my instructor gave me as far as the instructions. I just need to write an essay and it needs to be 800 words to in-text citations. I'm going to feed that instruction to the AI and let's see what it gives us. From there, it might say something like, it seems that you may be asking Grammarly to write your assignment for you. Many instructors don't allow this. So please check your academic guidelines. But remember, if I'm the type of instructor that is not very familiar with Grammarly, the new version of Grammarly now, and I just say, oh, well, it's okay to use Grammarly, Well, as a student, the student will just think they said it's okay to use Grammarly, so I'm not violating anything. So yeah, go ahead and do it. So I go ahead and click right here. It says continue with your original prompt. Yes, write an 800-word essay. So I'll click on that. It created the entire 800-word essay, and it's got all of the different parts that I need. It's got full 800 words, it's got references, it's got in-text citations. So from here, I can copy the whole thing and paste it into my Grammarly. So now I've pasted it all in here. And now I can go in and see what Grammarly itself tells me about what's going on with this document. I can go in and start to modify, to format it the way that I want. And now I can continue to work with it, continue to modify it. But as you're going to see, I can continue to let Grammarly rewrite the whole thing for me yet again. I can select a sentence and say, hey, this sentence here, I don't really like it. But now when you select a sentence in Grammarly, you get these two little icons that pop up. I click on one of them and it gives me the ability to improve it. I click on another one and it gives me the ability to rewrite with Grammarly. That's right, it'll completely rewrite the sentence for me. Options that I get for improving it, I can shorten it, I can do all sorts of things. It'll give me ideas for what I want to do, or I can specifically tell it. Again, it's using AI, so I can tell it exactly what I want and it'll redo it. I can go even further and say that I want it to be rewritten by Grammarly, so then it'll give me even more options and I can select from a huge selection of what I want as far as the rewrite, to shorten it, to improve it, to make it more precise, more descriptive, to paraphrase it, to summarize it, to sound more fluent. And the list just goes on and on because I can also adjust the tone of it. There's so many different options here. And again, I can also write in exactly what I want because it's all AI driven. If I'm an instructor and I have them, let's say, do the rough draft and they turn in a rough draft and I tell them something like, hey, your writing is pretty good, but it needs to be a bit more academic. The tone should be shifted in this way. In my mind, I would expect them to go through and read it again and then think about some specific different ways that they're putting words together, that they're putting the sentence structure and all these different aspects that affect the tone of it, the flow of it. I'm expecting them to go and reread it, to redo it, right? But if I told them ahead of time that, hey, just use Grammarly, well, then now I can go in here and say, oh, my instructor said that I want to adjust the tone of it. Boom, one button click and it redoes it without the student having to think. So this is something that you really need to be aware of when you tell your students what type of tools that they can use. So this is another key thing to think about. Now, all those examples that I gave, that was for a sentence to be rewritten, but I can do the same thing with an entire paragraph. I can have it changed to make it sound more formal, to shorten it, all those things. I can also do that to the entire thing. I can select the entire thing and rewrite it. I can tell it to make it be in a different format. I can tell it to be more academic, to be more descriptive. All these things I can modify at the push of a button. So it all depends on what you're doing within that class. What is the purpose of the assignment? Because if the purpose of the assignment is for them to specifically understand some grammatical rules to be able to write better on their own, then we have to be very careful with what we're allowing them to do with Grammarly. So again, another thing to really think about. Another portion here is the actual reference list. Now, the assignment here only called for 2 references, but one of the big things that I do now is that whenever I give this type of an assignment, I always revert back to the share technique that I came up with before. And one of the big things there is that I want to make sure that they understand that there is a high cost associated with putting in false or made up information, right? Because if they were to use AI, the AI could have generated made up citations. So I tell them that one, it's very important that it's correct information. Everything in the assignment, of course, has to be correct, but there's a high price to pay if it's made up, false, it doesn't exist, those type of things, because that's a tall tale sign that AI created it and they didn't even bother to go through and check to verify. So I always want to make sure that they understand that there is a big important aspect of making sure that they are sure about the information that they're turning in. So I'm helping them to understand that they are accountable for what they do. So I hold them accountable for their learning. So in the reference section, I make sure that they always have to put in a link. That's a link to where they got that information. If they can't find the actual thing, then it has to be, well, where did you get the data? Where did you get this knowledge from? So if it's from an Amazon, so if it's from a book, I tell them at the very least, they can give me an Amazon link or a link to a library reference for this, something that kind of helps to prove to me that they got this from an actual source and that was used for what they did in creating this overall assignment for the overall essay. Again, I always like to use the share technique because that's really helping them understand that they are accountable for the knowledge for what they're gaining. So I also do more dynamic assessments. So it wouldn't be just this essay. I would have them write the essay, but then I would ask them questions about it. There'd be a presentation associated. Even if it's just a 1 minute presentation, and then they know that, hey, there's going to be a Q&A, and you better be able to answer questions about what you wrote about. Why? Because I'm holding you accountable for your learning. So that's another key part here. There's different ways to address their capabilities with Grammarly. If you have a site license where your educational institution have access to Grammarly, there's different permissions that can be implemented so that they only have certain types of access to Grammarly. But of course, that's using a premium, that's a premium function, a premium version for if your whole educational institution has it. But again, that doesn't prevent them from using Grammarly, the free version that would have all the access that they wanted to generative AI. So that's a key thing just to understand is that many of us, and I thought this the exact same thing for a long time, that, hey, Grammarly is a place where you can upload your content and then it'll help you with the grammar. It'll help you with some of the phraseology. It'll help you with just spell checking and then using the right word. It's a great tool for that. And that's what I have always used it for. And I always recommend it for that. But you have to understand that now generative AI is fully embedded within Grammarly. This is something that I've been telling instructors all over the place is that, hey, the integration is going to be more and more with every single application out there. So it's going to be within your word processor, whether you're using Google or Microsoft, it's going to be integrated, whether you're using Apple now too. It's going to be so integrated that it'll just be a push of a button. And now you see in Grammarly that it totally is. And again, I want to stress that this is the free version that anyone can access. So please be careful when you use that statement of, oh, okay, well, you can use Grammarly. Because again, that's an open ticket for them to be able to use AI as much as they want because it's built into Grammarly. You see how easily someone could use AI to rewrite a sentence, rewrite a paragraph, rewrite the whole thing, or write it from the very beginning. So please consider that. Know that Grammarly is a great tool in general, but it has to be separated from the AI in order to avoid confusion. This might be something that if you still believe that Grammarly is a great tool for them, which I still do, but you want to sit down with them and have this discussion, have a presentation, show them this video, and tell them that, hey, I'm allowing you to use Grammarly, but only for the grammar portion. You're not allowed to use the AI portion. You're not allowed to hit that button to generate for you. You're not allowed to highlight something and tell it to rewrite for you, right? Be very specific with what you want. So I'm going to tell you a very controversial statement that I made in the past. And I want to share it with you because it's kind of a similar thing here. In the past, I was giving a presentation and I stated that I don't think a single instructor has any business teaching an online course if they've never gone through an online course themselves. So I made that statement. I ruffled quite a bit of feathers one time, but I very much believe that. And in the same way, we have no business telling students that it's okay for them to use Grammarly if we haven't gone through Grammarly and used it, looked at it and seen the type of tools and the type of capabilities that it has, because again, it's been modified, it's changed, it's been enhanced, if you will, in that now it has all these additional capabilities. So we want to be sure that we're crystal clear with our students, that we help them to understand what they can and can't do, that we're using the right tools in the right way, and that they fully understand that. We can't be mad at the student for using an AI when you didn't want them to, but you didn't tell them that they specifically can't do that, right? We have to train our students to understand what are they gaining, what are they losing. Now, maybe you do want them to use generative AI, but the big thing is that it does need to be purposeful. I'm all for helping students to develop AI literacy, but it needs to be on your terms as the instructor. You need to be making these purposeful decisions as to when you want them to use it. It can't just be this thing that, oh, well, I'm allowed to use Grammarly and I see there's this button, so I guess I can use it. No, it has to be very specific, very explicit that the student understands what they can and can't do. Together, I think we can definitely use the tools for our advantage, use AI at the proper place at the proper time when you're ready, and I think we can definitely enhance all of this educational experience for everyone. Thank you, everyone. And remember, learning is for the race. I appreciate everyone's time. I hope you got a lot out of this video. So if you do, please like and share so that we can all continue to learn from one another.